Throughout history, God has spoken through the most unlikely voices. A shepherd boy who became a king, a virgin who became the mother of God, a beggar who became a saint. In 1987, in a small city in Massachusetts, a 3-year-old girl was found floating face down in a swimming pool. She survived, but she would never speak a single word for the rest of her life. And yet, in her silence, she would speak to thousands. In her stillness, she would move hearts across the world. In her suffering, she would become a sign of hope. Her name was Audrey Marie Santo. And this is the story of how a little girl who could do nothing changed everything.
So we're here in Audrey's room at 64 South Flag Street. It was here that Audrey's family moved after the accident. The accident took place about a mile from here, further up the hill closer to what is now Worcester Airport. They had a 2-story colonial there that they lived in. There was an above-ground pool in the back. They were busy getting ready that day for Audrey's older brother to go away with some friends for the week, doing laundry, picking what he was going to take, getting things ready. And so the 2 younger children were out in the front with the dog playing. And all of a sudden they came down the stairs and realized that everybody was there, including the dog, but Audrey. They raced outside and Audrey was found floating face down in the pool in the backyard. Nobody really knows how she got there so quickly or how she even got there at all, because you had to lower a ladder in order to get into the pool and it had never been moved. Her oldest brother jumped in, pulled her out, began CPR. Somebody else called the ambulance right away. They were there in a matter of minutes and they took Audrey across town. She was eventually moved to another hospital and there they gave her the overdose of phenobarbital, which caused her to be able to lose her fine motor skill because it damaged her brain permanently. Didn't leave her in a vegetative state. She was still very active, interactive with the world around her, but she did lose the fine motor control of her extremities. She couldn't hold a spoon, fork, she couldn't button, pull a zipper. And then while she was in the hospital, somebody came in to do therapy. Nobody knows why or who, but they dislocated both of her hips and broke one of her leg bones. They all healed in the wrong place, so by the time that Audrey left the hospital, she was never able to sit up again. The hospital staff expected that Audrey would be placed in an institution with professionals who would care for her, while the family were concerned that they wanted to take her home, to continue to keep her part of their family and to make her as much a part of their life as they could. They never went back to the house where the accident took place, and eventually they settled in this particular house, which is a 1-story ranch. When they purchased that, there's a room right off the kitchen which was used as an office by the previous owners, which they made Audrey's bedroom when she first came out of the hospital the November after the accident. She was right there in the heart of everything. They're preparing meals, getting breakfast, the kids are getting off to school, coming in from school. Audrey's right there in the middle of all of their life and its activity.
The doctors came in with a nice list of pediatric nursing homes, and we said, no, we're taking her home. And my mother and father were sitting there, and they said to us, no, you can't take her home. She'll be dead in 2 weeks. And I said, oh, I hope you're on duty when she comes in. And 23 years later, she was still here. And she was perfect. I'm going to tell you that as an interjection. Her hair was perfect, everything. Her skin was like satin. No bed sores, no nothing. It was just amazing. God preserved her. And she did have 24-hour nursing, 7 days a week. And she had nurses that converted. A Jewish nurse, a Protestant, and the toughest one was the agnostic. So, and they all became Catholic. Yeah. They couldn't witness these things about Audrey and around her and not know where the faith was, I think. Every time I was going to have a child, I would meet my spiritual director in front of the Blessed Sacrament and devote this child to our Lord and Our Lady. And every time he'd say to me, I know what you want, Linda. You want a saint. I always wanted a saint. Not for just, I wanted her to be a saint, for each one of them. Anyway, when this happened to Audrey, when she fell in the pool, and we ended up at the hospital with lots of family, and Father was there, and I can remember very vividly, he bent over to look at me and he said, Linda. And I said, what, Father? He said, you got your saint. I didn't know what he meant at that point, but I still have the chills, you know.
As time went on, I began to appreciate the strong faith possessed by Linda, Audrey's mother. I thought Linda was very humble in the way she was living and caring for her child and family. One day I asked Linda why she usually went about her house barefoot, and she told me that when she was younger, she wanted to become a Carmelite nun. She entered the convent as a novitiate, and they made her sleep on a straw mattress. She was allergic to the straw, and it gave her asthma attacks. She said that was the end of her vocation as a Carmelite nun. It seems that in God's infinite wisdom, he knew that it would be better for Linda to be Audrey's mother.
This may be a story about Linda rather than about Audrey. This is beyond stoicism. This is grace, real grace. Huh? Audrey was in view, but what Linda was doing was out of view of everyone. And that's what impressed me as holy. Linda was choosing literally to sacrifice her whole life. There was nothing in her life but taking care of this child day in and day out. That's love. That's Christ-like love, giving up everything.
The family treated her with love and prayed to God for a miraculous healing. Their love and faith was a great example of how we should all be in our relationship to a disabled or handicapped person and family member.
We got, 40 million children a year being killed in the wombs. The people that just being careless with them because they're in the way of something. The human being is a problem, get rid of it. And here's this woman over here, exhausting her whole life, day in and day out, unbeknownst to anyone, to be careful, full of care with her child.
They eventually placed her in a room opposite this room. They broke an opening into the wall between the room we're in and what was Audrey's bedroom, so that as people were able to visit Audrey, realizing the extraordinary things that were surrounding her, Audrey could see them, they could see Audrey, but they didn't breathe the same air. If somebody had something that was contagious, they wouldn't infect her or make her sick.
It was family. We wanted her right off the kitchen, so she was with everybody. And she was, always. Even when she got this big, beautiful room, I'll tell you, we'd bring her out every Sunday. Every Sunday she'd come out, she'd sit on my mother's lap. I mean, she was just very involved with family, with all of it. And we spoke to her. My mother spoke to her in Spanish. I mean, we just did.
Again, many people thought that Audrey was in a vegetative state, which is not true. There's scientific documentation that she was not. She would respond to the Mass, I've been told by one of her nurses, that if they came in and the change of shifts happened and that Mass came on, and they might be talking about what happened in the previous night. Was there something unusual or extraordinary? If she heard them whispering in the back of her room while she was watching Mass, she would make the machines beep until they stopped talking. So she was very conscious that when they moved her to here, the kids would come in at the other end of the house. She'd hear them come through the door, and they said she would start to flail. because she had no control, but she couldn't wait for them to come. And their practice was the first thing they did when they came home was come in to see their sister and to tell her about their day.
She concentrated on you when you were talking to her. She was cognizant. She watched movies. She listened to music. In fact, to tell you the truth, she loved Johnny Cash. And she could be all upset, and we'd play Johnny. Even the nurses would say, "Put Johnny Cash on," and she'd calm right down. You know, so it wasn't like she didn't know what was going on. She did with her brothers and her sister, and later on with her favorite nephew, my first grandson. She was very close to him. In fact, we'd walk in and be talking, and he'd go, "Shh, she's talking to me." You know, so it was not that we told him that. It's just that this evolved like this.
I was always very impressed by the love shown to Audrey by everyone in the family and by her staff. Everyone would talk to her in a way that presumed she heard and understood. Though she certainly never spoke or responded in a way that the world would accept as intelligent communication, those who knew her, that is her family and nursing staff, truly believed that she had a little mind of her own, and at times let them know if she did not like something they said or did. One time, I believe it was a birthday party for her, when I came into the room where she was, I swear she heard and recognized my voice, and turned her head towards me and opened her eyes wide. Another thing that was so impressive to me at this time was that here was this 10-year-old little girl, bedridden, semi-comatose, completely dependent on her family and nurses for everything for the past 7 years, and yet she had beautiful skin and hair and never a bed sore, even though she could not move herself and depended on her caregivers to frequently change her position to prevent bed sores.
Well, pink was her favorite color, so it was just an explosion. My youngest son used to say, "We live in a pink world," you know. I don't know, it just, you know, we knew she liked it, and I was pink is for girls and blue is for boys. I mean, I'd have all 4 of the kids in the car, and if 2 boys and 2 girls, you know, and I would say the same thing. So I guess part of that is me. And then my oldest daughter was pink. So it was like, oh, Audrey, you know, she had to be pink. You know, and so then everything turned out pink. And I do have it all over the house. It's all over my bedroom. I even have a pink phone.
Shortly after Audrey celebrated her first communion, Bishop Flanagan, who was the retired bishop of our diocese at the time, was a family friend, came, celebrated Mass here in Audrey's house to give her her communion, and then shared with her family that because they were not able to take her in a car because they couldn't put her in a car seat. So he gave them permission for them to be able to reserve the Blessed Sacrament so that every time when they watched Mass on television, Audrey could be able to receive communion in the mouth. They would break a very small piece, place it in her mouth, and let it be able to dissolve. So the interesting point is that from that point on, it's the only food Audrey ever took by mouth. All of her other nutrition and nourishment came by a tube into her body, which was also striking because every year from Thursday night to Easter Sunday, the feeding tube would never work. Audrey would, by her own way, fast. Even though she was fed by a tube, she would actually fast. The other thing that would happen is her body would become rigid. It wouldn't move, it would just be stiff from Thursday night until Sunday morning.
Over 33 years ago, I was at work and I was looking through a Marian newspaper. And I saw this article in the paper about little Audrey and her story. And I found it very captivating. I hunted down Linda Santo's phone number and I called her. And I said, I just read the story about little Audrey and I was wondering if I could come and play some music for her. And she said, yeah, sure, come on over. She gave me her address, showed up. I unloaded all my equipment and I saw little Audrey in bed, and her eyes are opened. She can't move, very silent. And they rolled her out into the dining room, and I began to play music for her. When I sang for little Audrey, I just felt so blessed, and I can remember just feeling the Holy Spirit. And I can remember like seeing a little smile on her face. And there were many times when I would see tears come from her eyes. It was so profound. And I knew that there was more going on in that room than just me playing music, singing for little Audrey, and her listening to me. Little Audrey was just she's an amazing gift. And I feel like when you looked at little Audrey and when you were playing, she just brought the best out of you. I felt like I was praying, and I felt like the prayer and the music was even that much more powerful, knowing that she's right there in that room with me.
And then all of a sudden, people from everywhere started coming and praying the rosary. We had rosary every Friday night with my family, but this grew. And their rosary started to turn gold. And it was just like one phenomena after another. And then later on, I don't know exact dates, but things started weeping oil.
And you can see it dripping. Look at it dripping. Look at it running right off the bottom. Look at that. It's just dripping. Look at it.
Go ahead. I don't know what you have to give it to.
Boy, look at that, huh? Mm-hmm. Oil's just coming right out of the Bible.
It's weeping. Statue started to bleed. See the blood on the statue of Jesus. But that is real blood. It's been tested.
Statue of our Blessed Mother, weeping oil, which ran down his cheek, and it's hanging off his chin right now.
You know, and we used to kind of laugh about some things because we would say, well, you know, Saint Charbel, we were related to Charbel, and he's all about oil, and, you know. So, but she did. Everything was weeping. In the chapel, in her room, in here, everywhere, every possible statue. And we didn't know what to do. Father Charlie McCarthy tells it really well. He said, Linda called me. We had been given a picture of Our Lady of Guadalupe. My middle sister's name was Guadalupe, so we had a great devotion to her. And it started weeping oil. And I called Father Charlie, and he said, Linda called me, and she wasn't laughing, but she was serious. She said, Father, please come. I don't know what's happening.
Certain kinds of Catholics think they have to take it upon themselves to make it appear miracles are happening. And I've come across that several times, not just in the United States, but in Europe. And it was nothing. I took that picture up, and I looked at it inside and out, took the back off it, to see if any fake stuff going on here. There wasn't. I was stunned.
Some of the oil has also been tested. The samples were sent to the laboratory of Kraft Food in Memphis, Tennessee. You can see that sample number 1 and sample number 2 differ not only in a chemical composition, but in a shade of yellow color and fragrance. They are different from all other commercially available oils. It has therefore been concluded that the oils collected from the chalice and the head of Christ are of unexplainable origin.
It was on an easel, and we had battened cotton there. It was just weeping. It was unbelievable. I mean, I didn't ask for this. I asked for a saint. Not all the amenities that go with it. But, so it was like that in the very beginning.
I can remember getting a phone call from Linda, and she said, "You need to come here right away. I need to show you something." So I drove up right away. I went into the home, and I said, "What's going on?" And she goes, "Follow me." She took me into the chapel, and what she showed me was unbelievable. There were 7 statues that were weeping blood. And this is all very new to me because, I didn't know what this was all about, but I do know that with God, all things are possible. And sometimes God is really trying to get our attention. And when statues begin to weep blood, we really need to listen and pay attention and try to discover what is it that God is trying to say to us. I can remember having Mass and celebrating little Audrey's life in the backyard. And I think this was on August 9th. And I was doing the music, of course, and I went to receive communion. We also received from the chalice. And when we received from the chalice, I can remember that there was oil in the precious blood. And then when I went to receive it, there was a bitter taste to the precious blood, to the wine. And so one thing after another would always be happening. There's always something going on supernaturally in the Santo home. Statues weep oil, pictures weep oil. I believe there's still a ciborium that fills up with oil. There have been 7 Eucharistic miracles that have bled in the past years. So it really is just amazing to experience, and I would totally recommend that if people have never gone to the Santo home to pray, to celebrate Mass, to go and see how God is working.
Bishop Flanagan celebrated a Mass for her first communion in her home. A small piece of the host was given to Audrey to take by mouth. The remainder of the host was placed in the tabernacle for Audrey to receive communion at another Mass. A day or 2 later, the host was discovered to have blood. Those that make pilgrimage to 64 South Flag Street in Worcester, Massachusetts, can venerate this host during adoration on the first Saturday Masses.
So, of course, the Eucharist itself is a miracle. So the Church is always very reserved in the way she speaks of Eucharistic miracles because in some ways it's redundant. The Eucharist is a miracle. To say a Eucharistic miracle is to say that there's something even more extraordinary than that extraordinary grace and gift that bread and wine become the living body and blood of the Lord. So through the course of centuries, there have been several Eucharistic miracles. One of the earliest and most famous is the one in Lanciano in Italy that is even preserved, where the Eucharistic species changed into tissue and blood. The more recent one is the one that happened in 1996 in Buenos Aires, Argentina, which was supervised by then Cardinal Bergoglio, who later became Pope Francis, that actually was investigated by the laboratories in our own country without being able to know where they came from. Audrey's house is unique in that there has been more than one instance of what may be considered a Eucharistic miracle. And what that is that the host has begun to appear to spontaneously bleed. Often that has happened visually in front of people during the celebration of Mass. Other times it has happened in the Eucharist as it is reserved in the tabernacle. where the host itself begins to spontaneously appear to be able to bleed. One of the more recent ones with a deceased priest of our diocese, Father Walter Riley, who was a close friend of the Santo family as well. He celebrated Mass here. The host began to bleed, and they actually have documentation of how it bled over a period of about 3 months, while the host was preserved in the monstrance that it is still kept in. There are other hosts over a period of many years. You made reference to the tabernacle behind me. Father Ubald, who was a priest from Uganda, who came often to the United States with the gift of healing, celebrated Mass here, and as he did, the host began to bleed. And subsequently, as he placed the host aside, it also began to be able to weep oil. That host and the first one that bled were both tested by laboratories. The first host was actually tested on video here in Audrey's house. Dr. Lipinski came, who performed the DNA testing in the dining room table. It's all verified and recorded on a video. And this host of Father Ubald, the one that's in the brass pyx, is also one that they did DNA testing on. The very center of it had started to bleed. They took a piece of that and they sent it out to a forensic lab in California, which is the same lab that worked on the O.J. Simpson case. Both of those determined that the blood was actually human blood and determined to be of AB type.
You now see the official results from the forensic lab in Yorba Linda, California. The evidence was transported by the Mercy Foundation people and never left their possession. The analysis requested was to determine if the stains on the Catholic Eucharistic host was human blood. This letter, signed by the criminalist who conducted the test, confirmed that the red-brown stain on the host contained human blood.
Of course, those types of realities, when people see that, the word is spread and people come. You think that most of the Eucharistic miracles are in other parts of the world, that there is not one, but there are 6 hosts here that have bled spontaneously in Audrey's house is truly exceptional.
I visited a little Audrey's house. I have never felt such spiritual presence. The house was so filled with that presence of God. You could feel it. It is like a grip onto your soul. It grips you completely. I have never experienced such wonders. Right before my eyes, the Holy Eucharist, like sipping oil, and the oil was being collected and being stored. And what more, every other statue, the crucifix, the pictures of the saints, pictures of Saint Padre Pio and Saint Chabel, they were all sipping that oil. The whole house, you could see oil flowing out in the whole house. Even on the wall to little Audrey's room, the oil were there from nowhere. That is only an evidence of the supernatural. And that is the only Eucharist you could see that sips oil. I was carried away to see up to 7 Eucharistic miracles, 7 Eucharistic by a bishop and 6 other priests of the Eucharist bleeding blood. I was privileged to take it out, to hold it in my hands, to feel it. Like Thomas, I have no reason to doubt. I felt it in my hands. I lifted it up, I saw it, and I used it to bless the people who were there. My hands were oily. And I got the privilege, the special grace to touch the oil and to anoint myself. In Psalm 23, the scripture says that God will anoint us with oil and our cup will overflow. And I see that connection that God truly is letting his oil overflow in the house of Audrey. Every youth, every man, and every woman to visit the place. visit the place. If you are sick, visit the place. That oil that is oozing out is purely from the hands of God.
Many came to believe that Audrey was a victim soul who would not only intervene for the afflicted, but also would offer up her own sufferings in restitution for sin. Many pilgrims still journey near and far for healing and for prayers to be answered through the intercession of Audrey to this day.
I came in 2022. At that time, I'd been diagnosed with neurologia, malignant. At the same time, they diagnosed me with tumors. In another hospital, they told me I had a very rare form of migraines, which was not known. They didn't have medicine for it. So they gave me 2 weeks to live. I was sick in several hospitals over a long period of time. But one day, I say I must go to find out where this girl lived. So when I came here, I said, I'm looking for little Audrey. She said, oh, she lived here. Come in. She welcomed me so nicely. I told her about what I was going through. And she said, well, you never know. We went to the gift shop. I bought a couple of things. I was in a lot of pain. I could not even carry what I'd bought. But among the things I bought was a pillow. She put the pillow that I'd bought on Audrey's bed. And I said, I'll come back next Saturday. So when I picked the pillow the following Saturday, I took it home and I put my head down onto it and I said, Audrey, you're in heaven. You're capable of greater things than even when you are here. I slept that night very peacefully, like I'd never slept before in so maybe like a year. When I woke up the following morning, no trace of headache, no trace of anything, no trace of anything. So since then, I have not suffered headaches. I've not suffered. The 2 weeks they gave me to live, that is 2022. This is 2025. I'm still here. The cancer they were suspecting, the tumors being malignant, they kept calling me back. Are you still alive? Are you still alive? I say, well, I am not coming back to give me your bad news, but I want to come back and tell you God is alive and is working through the little girl called Audrey Santo. The testimony she bore to mankind when she was alive is even much greater because she's next to God.
It was a teenage girl where from New Jersey, she had this serious infection that, didn't allow her to go to school. She was in constant pain. We sent her the little Audrey prayer and oil. And we told her, to her mother to anoint her and do the prayer. And that night, she first woken up by scent of roses throughout the room. And she's like, Mom, do you smell where those roses coming from? Her mom didn't smell it, it was just her. And then she looked at her bureau and the little Audrey's prayer card was on top and she saw the bureau was weeping oil. It was just dripping down, that's what she said. And she was telling her mom, she said her mom didn't see it. It was just a vision that she saw. Not even like a week or two later, she was already swimming with her friends and the doctors were expecting months of recovery. Now she's living a normal life.
Justo por aquí pasé yo, después de celebrar la Santa Misa en la capilla. Y allí me encontré con esta jovencita que parecía incomunicada, pero que nos comunicamos muy bien. Le impartí la bendición y ella rompió a moverse. Y a moverse de lado a lado. Yo recibí un impacto de bendición tal, yo recuerdo que caí de rodillas y lloraba. De alegría, de gozo. Fue un encuentro con Jesucristo a través de esta jovencita. ¿Okay? Mientras tanto, la enfermera como que se alarmó, porque empezó a notar que ella, a pesar de que estaba conectada al 50% de una máquina de oxígeno, dejó de respirar. Y me hicieron señales que tienen que trabajar con ella. Entonces me retiré a la capilla para la bendición con el Santísimo Sacramento, con uno de los fenómenos eucarísticos, la Sagrada Eucaristía que había sangrado, y salí por ahí con la custodia. Y tuvimos allí la adoración en la capilla. De regreso, pedí entrar a la habitación para impartirle a ella la bendición con la Eucaristía. Me dieron que pasar. Cuando pasé y entré, le impartí la bendición a ella con la Eucaristía. Y de nuevo la enfermera indicó que dejó de respirar. Que una bendición especial me esperaba, porque nunca había ocurrido eso antes. Y ahí se creó como un enlace entre la pequeña Audrey y este servidor, con quien ya yo me comunicaba en oración desde mi parroquia, ¿okay? E impartiéndole a ella la bendición desde Puerto Rico. Un enlace muy especial. ¿Cómo describirlo? La verdad que no tengo palabras. Pero fue un renacer en mi sacerdocio bien fuerte, bien especial.
How do we explain that? For those who don't believe, no words are possible. And for those who do believe in the power of God, no words are necessary.
Audrey's a nobody. Audrey's a nobody. She's nothing. How can you say she's holy? She's a kid. She hasn't done anything. She just fell in a pool. That's not the way God works. Audrey is right in line with Jesus as a suffering servant of 2nd Isaiah, as a suffering servant of the New Testament. But what his servant isn't is he's not at his right hand with power and telling people what to do and this, that. He chooses him to be his servant, to suffer in love. And that love is going to save the whole world.
Every day when she was alive, I'd come in and kiss her feet. And I still do it. Even though her feet aren't there, but I still go to the ends of the bed and kiss her feet. And I pray in this room. I pray a lot. When it's quiet, this is where I love to be. I went and met with the bishop because we knew it was imminent. And he said, I would like to have the wake and the funeral at the cathedral. So that's what we did. And the cathedral was full. Lay people, priests, bishops, cardinals, they all came.
Upon hearing of Audrey's death, Bishop Robert J. McManus of the Worcester Diocese said, "We may never fully understand the causes of various paranormal events which have been reported to have occurred in the Santo home. At this time, however, one thing is certain. Everyone who visited their home was touched by the unswaying commitment to life that was exhibited each and every day by the Santo family and by the extensive network of friends and volunteers. In 2008, he recognized a foundation for the promotion of the cause of her canonization."
So the church is very specific with regard to the process for canonization. The first thing that has to happen is petitions need to be sent to the local bishop. After there are sufficient petitions and at least a very preliminary investigation, the bishop then signs what is called the libellus that declares the person a person of virtue and therefore a servant of God. Audrey's issue is that the process got upended. It started with the foundation being given approval, some of the petitions being realized, but the libellus was never signed. And so that document needs to be signed for the legal mechanisms to be able to take place. I would think that if Audrey reaches that point of being the libellus being signed, her declared a servant of God, that it would be a quick chronology for her to be able to be raised to the altar of the saints.
I would love to see her canonized. I think after 23 years of suffering, she deserves it. And 23 years of bringing people to the Lord. She did this without saying a word. She said volumes. And I think that's the biggest thing, really. She evangelized, not on the internet, not on a mountain. She did this from her bed. And I think that was absolutely unbelievable. beyond unbelievable that God allowed that with her.
Anybody who came like Audrey was broken in their life and in their world, looking for grace, finding an abundance of grace in her limited body, her soul was magnified. And as a result of that, people who came to her and still come here because of that story find the magnificence of God's grace.
Mother Teresa said, my business is fidelity. God's business is success. God in his love used Audrey and used Linda and used the whole event in this incomprehensible mystery of time and space that we can't even imagine, exactly as it has to be used for his greater honor and glory and for the salvation of souls.
This is the way God works. Through the simplicity of our humanity, he reveals the extraordinary gift of his grace and the truth of his divinity. And people continue to come and they find that. If it overwhelms you, don't be distracted by that. Let it lead you here and then look at what God is doing and did in this little girl, continues to do even when she's gone beyond us.
When God came to live among humanity, he didn't choose to arrive in the grandest castle. He chose a little stable. When Jesus spoke about why we shouldn't worry about basic human needs, he reminded us of how God provides for the delicate lilies of the field and the birds of the sky. So is it any wonder that he would call a sweet, frail little girl to become a great saint?